I was setting the last platter of roasted chicken on the dining room table when my phone buzzed. A quick glance at the screen showed it was my husband, Evan. He should have been at the law firm working late. "Hello," I answered, wiping my hands on a dish towel as I hit the call button. "Nora, we need to talk." Evan's voice was as calm as if he were discussing tomorrow's weather. "Next Wednesday, the whole family's going to Palm Springs for a week. I've already booked the plane tickets and a vacation rental." My knuckles went white as I gripped the phone, a sudden familiar tightness clenching in my chest. This was the third time. My voice, eerily composed in the calm before the storm, came out sounding unnaturally placid. "The whole family, huh? Your parents, your brother Ryan and his new girlfriend, your aunt and your cousin. That's 6 people." I forced a deliberately cheerful tone. "The rental you booked only has 3 bedrooms. And if there are too many of us, it'll be a hassle. So I'll sit this one out. Don't worry about me." I took a deep breath, my eyes scanning the meticulously prepared meal on the table. 2 main dishes and a soup, all of Evan's favorites. Now all that food, along with my hopes for a quiet dinner together, felt destined for the trash. "Got it. Well, you all have a wonderful time." My voice sounded like a distant echo. "I knew you'd understand, Nora. You're the most accommodating person I know." I could hear his sigh of relief. "Oh, and while I'm gone, don't forget to water the garden and my succulents." "Right. Okay." I hung up, standing frozen in place. The phone screen went black, a light extinguishing inside my heart. The third time, 3 years of marriage, and not once had I been invited on their annual family trip. The first time, the excuse was that I'd just had a miscarriage, and a long trip would be too much for me. The second, my job was too demanding, and it would be hard to take time off. This year, he hadn't even bothered to invent a convincing excuse. I began to clear the table mechanically, scraping the untouched food into the trash. Suddenly, my wrist trembled and a plate slipped from my hands, shattering on the floor. The shards scattered across the tile. They looked exactly like me in that moment, bright on the surface, broken underneath. A marriage that seemed brilliant on the outside, yet crumbled at the slightest touch. My phone buzzed again. It was the family group chat. A message from my mother-in-law. "Palm Springs again this year. We leave Wednesday, don't forget sunscreen. They say it's going to be hot." A flurry of celebratory emojis followed. I stared at the words. The whole family. My eyes welled up with tears. To them, I wasn't family. I was just a stranger, an unpaid housekeeper. I pulled out a family photo from last year's trip to San Diego. Evan had his arm around his brother Ryan. My mother-in-law, in a flashy sundress, sat in the center, and my father-in-law, looking solemn, stood to the side. Next to them were his cousin and Ryan's girlfriend at the time. All 7 of them were beaming with the blue ocean and palm trees in the background. That day, I was home alone with a high fever. I called Evan and he told me, "Take some Tylenol and rest. You'll be fine. We're on a boat and the signal's bad. Gotta go." And he hung up. I sank to the floor, picking up the ceramic pieces one by one. I cut my finger and blood welled up, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the ache in my soul. My phone rang again. It was my best friend Maya on a video call. I quickly wiped my eyes, put on a fake smile, and answered, "Maya, you wouldn't believe the angry client who came into the salon today." Maya's voice stopped abruptly. She squinted, bringing her face closer to the screen. "What's going on with you? Your eyes are red." "Nothing. I was cutting an onion and they started stinging." I tried to smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Don't lie to me. You think I've known you for more than 10 years for nothing?" Maya's brow furrowed. What did that jerk Evan do this time? Under her piercing gaze, my armor crumbled. In a few hushed words, I explained everything, my voice dropping to a whisper. "I feel like I'm the one being made fun of. You? It's Evan and his family who are making fools of themselves. Nora, wake up! These people don't see you as family." I fell silent. Deep down, I already knew it. I just didn't want to admit it. 3 years ago, at our stunning wedding, Evan had knelt and promised me happiness. The image was still vivid in my mind. How had we gotten here in the blink of an eye? "Nora," Maya's voice suddenly turned serious. "You remember you signed a prenup, right?" I nodded. It was a month before the wedding. Evan had suddenly proposed a prenuptial agreement, claiming it was a family tradition. Although it made me uncomfortable, I signed anyway to prove I wasn't after his money. The house is in your name. That's your separate property, right? It was a wedding gift from my parents. We registered it as a separate asset only in my name. I frowned. Why are you asking? No reason, Maya hesitated. I just want you to take better care of yourself. Hey, since his family is going away next week, why don't you come and stay with me for a few days so you're not alone? I gently declined her offer. After we hung up, I stood by the living room window, looking out at the manicured lawn Evan had so carefully tended. We had bought this house when we got married. My parents paid the down payment, and I covered the renovation costs with the money I had saved over years of work. Evan's family contributed a minimal amount, but they insisted his name be on the deed. The excuse was that a man needed to keep up appearances. The night wore on. I showered and got into bed like an automaton. Evan wouldn't be home tonight either. He had to work late. For the past 6 months, his extra hours had become more frequent, and I had stopped asking questions. Lying there staring at the ceiling, a thought crossed my mind. Did I really want to continue this marriage? For the past 3 years, I had strived to be a good wife and an exemplary daughter-in-law. I cared for my husband meticulously and even put up with my brother-in-law's attitude. What had I received in return? The deliberate exclusion from the group chat, my husband's increasingly frequent absences, and an annual family trip I was always left out of. My phone lit up. A message from Evan. You still up? I'll be gone next week, so make sure to lock the door tight. Oh, and my mom wants you to buy her some gifts typical of Palm Springs. Buy some nice gift boxes tomorrow and get them ready for her. Reading the message, I started to laugh, laughing until I cried. That was it. This is really the end. How long are you going to keep pretending, Nora? I wiped my tears and sent a message to Maya. Are you free tomorrow? I need legal advice. The cold moon shone high in the sky. I knew some things were irreversible. The morning sun crept through the bedroom curtains. I opened my eyes, but the other side of the bed was still empty. Evan, as expected, had not come home last night. It was the 7th time this month. I got up and opened the closet. My fingers brushed past countless dresses before stopping at an elegant pantsuit. I chose it on purpose today. Evan always said dresses made me look like a model wife. I washed my face and looked at myself in the mirror. My 29-year-old face already showed profound exhaustion. The fine lines under my eyes and my dull skin were a testament to 3 years of a repressed life. I covered the traces of last night's crying with makeup. Ding-dong. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Maya's signature short hair and sharp gaze. She was holding 2 coffees and a paper bag with the delicious smell of pastries. Knew you'd skip breakfast. As soon as I opened the door, she put the food in my hands. Americano, a splash of milk, no sugar, and your favorite croissant. The rich aroma of the coffee comforted me. In this city, besides the barista, Maya was the only one who remembered my preferences. Evan didn't even know I was allergic to peanuts. Last year at a family gathering, he insisted on serving me a salad full of nuts, saying it was delicious. So, what legal advice do you need? Maya took her laptop out of her bag and got straight to the point. I stirred my coffee and began to speak, weighing each word. If I wanted a divorce, how do I protect myself? Maya's eyes lit up. Finally, she quickly opened several files. First, we clarify your finances. You said the house is in your name, right? Yes, it was a wedding gift from my parents. I registered it as my exclusive property, but after we got married, Evan insisted on adding his name. For appearance's sake, he said, and I, being a softie, agreed. I forced a bitter smile. Maya's forehead wrinkled. When was that? About 6 months after the wedding. He asked me every day. He said his co-workers' wives had done it, and he was the only one who hadn't, and he was embarrassed at work. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. It's messy, but since it's separate property and you paid the down payment, that part, plus appreciation, belongs to you. Who covered the renovations? Mostly me. With the money I saved from work, about $70,000. Evan's family contributed about $15,000. Do you have proof? Yes, I kept the renovation contract and all the receipts. Maya looked satisfied. Next, we gather evidence. Do you know exactly how much Evan earns? The question left me blank. Evan's income. Since we got married, we'd each managed our own money. He had given me an approximate figure, but I had never asked for the details. About $100,000 a year? He gives me $100 a month for household expenses. The rest we handle our own. Maya's eyebrows nearly met in the middle. What? You've been married 3 years and still keep separate accounts, and I've been paying the mortgage on the house. My voice trailed off. Evan said he needed to invest and save for his parents' medical cushion. My eyes filled with tears again. Even to me, it sounded ridiculous. To others, I was the woman who lived in a luxurious house and drove a high-end car. But the reality was I had to think twice before buying a decent coat. Meanwhile, Evan had gifted his mother a $20,000 gold bracelet without a second thought. We need to learn his financial picture, Maya said, serious. Do you have access to his computer or any documents? The office is always locked. He says he has confidential client information. Suddenly, I remembered something. I do have an emergency key. I could go in when he's not there. Be careful. You can't let him find out, she warned. Bank statements, investment records are key. And she paused. Do you have any proof of infidelity? My heart skipped a beat. Infidelity? A possibility I had tried to ignore with all my might was finally coming to the surface. After Maya left, I stood in front of the office door with the key in my hand. When we got married, we promised to respect each other's privacy. Because of that, I had never entered his personal space without permission. Today, I had to break that rule. The sound of the key in the lock seemed unnaturally loud. When I opened the door, a faint smell of men's cologne hit me. The office was impeccably tidy. The law books on the shelf were arranged by height, and there wasn't a speck of dust on the desk. I checked the drawers. In the top one, a few unimportant work documents. In the middle one, several photo albums. I opened them at random. They only had pictures of Evan and his family with only a few of the two of us together. The bottom drawer was locked. That anomaly only increased my suspicions. Looking around, my eyes fell on a small safe behind the bookshelf. Evan had bought it last year to store important documents. I tried our anniversary date, error. His birthday, error. Finally, I entered his mother's birthday. The safe opened with a click. Inside there was a stack of well-organized documents. On top of everything, a copy of the property deed. My heart went cold as I opened it. It was the deed to my house, but under the owner section, it clearly stated Evan Black and Nora Miller in a joint tenancy. I remembered perfectly that in the beginning, it was only about adding his name with a minority share. I continued searching and found several bank statements. The balance in Evan's account stunned me. It wasn't the $150,000 he had told me. It was nearly $1.5 million. Furthermore, every month there were regular transfers of between $3,000 and $15,000 to a Valerie. At the bottom was an elegant velvet jewelry case. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a diamond necklace I had never seen in my life. The receipt said Tiffany & Co. The price exceeded $25,000. The purchase date was my birthday last year, but my gift had been a simple bouquet of flowers. Under the case was another photo. Evan was hugging a young woman by a resort pool. They were wearing matching swimsuits and smiling radiantly. On the back in my husband's handwriting was a note. To my love, Valerie, Palm Springs, August 2023. That was the exact week he had claimed to be on a business trip. My world came crashing down. All his extra hours, the successive absences, the inexplicable expenses, everything made sense. The vibration of my phone almost made me drop the photo. It was Evan. Honey, I won't make it for dinner tonight. I have a work dinner. I stared at the message and then looked at his profile picture on the messaging app. He was sitting in a luxurious restaurant. Reflected in the wine glass was a hand with red nails across the table. When I zoomed in on the image, the silhouettes of him and a long-haired woman could be seen in the window's reflection. In that moment, my mind became strangely clear. All my doubts and self-blame had found their answers. I wasn't paranoid or overly sensitive. I was just an idiot who was being cheated on. Calmly, I snapped photos of all the evidence and sent them to Maya's encrypted email. Then I put everything back in its place. I closed the safe and left the office. At 10 p.m., Evan came home smelling of alcohol. Sitting on the living room sofa, I watched him with an empty gaze as he stumbled to take off his shoes. "Honey, you're still awake." He came over to kiss me, but I turned my head away. "You smell like perfume. I don't like it," I said in a flat voice. Evan paused for a moment and then laughed. "It was for work, babe. Must have rubbed off. Those clients wear strong cologne." "Oh, really?" I looked him directly in the eyes. "Is Valerie a client too?" Evan's expression froze. His drunkenness seemed to vanish instantly. "What? What are you talking about?" "Nothing," I stood up. "It just occurred to me. You must be exhausted entertaining that client so many times a month." Evan's face went from red to white. "Nora, listen. I can explain." "You don't need to explain anything," I cut him off. "I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. I have to buy those gift boxes for your mom tomorrow." "You didn't forget, right?" I turned around and went into the bedroom. Evan was left alone in the living room with a completely bewildered expression. As I closed the door, I leaned against it. I heard his nervous footsteps outside and his voice whispering on the phone. He was undoubtedly calling Valerie to warn her. My phone lit up. A message from Maya. "Evidence received. With this, he's done. Come to the office tomorrow and we'll talk in detail, and this time follow everything I say." I replied with an "okay" and deleted the conversation history. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. My mind was strangely calm. The old Nora would have spent the night crying, but the one now just felt like laughing. Evan carefully opened the door and lay down next to me as if nothing had happened. In the darkness, I could hear him deliberately holding his breath, pretending to be asleep. "Evan," I broke the silence suddenly. "What resort are you booking in Palm Springs?" His body tensed visibly. "Just a normal one. A place the company uses." "Oh, really?" I chuckled. "Not the Oasis Club again? I hear the private pool villas cost a fortune." Evan sat up with a start. "Have you been spying on me?" "Spying?" I turned to look at him. The moonlight illuminated his face, twisted by panic and anger. "Do I need to? You forgot to block me on Facebook last November. Check in at the Oasis Club. And the Tiffany necklace in the picture was beautiful." Evan's face contorted. "Nora, how dare you look at my phone? Compared to you cheating, me checking your phone is nothing. Don't you think?" I got up and turned on the bedside lamp. 3 years of marriage, separate accounts. I've played house for your entire family while you entertained someone else. Evan, you never failed to disappoint." Evan's face turned pale. Suddenly he grabbed a pillow and hurled it against the wall. "Stop it. You think I wanted this? I'm sick of that long face every night. Valerie's 100 times more affectionate. She knows how to treat a man." I watched his mad outburst in silence. Suddenly it all seemed so ridiculous. This was the man I had defied my parents to marry. A coward who, after cheating, still had the audacity to blame others. "All right, let's get a divorce," I said lightly. "Go be with Valerie. I'll live my life in peace." "Divorce?" Evan burst out laughing as if he'd heard the joke of the century. "In your dreams. Half this house is mine. Without me, how will you live? Your tiny salary can't cover the mortgage." So that was it. He had it all figured out. He was sure I would never dare ask for a divorce. Seeing his smug face, I laughed. "We'll see." Evan hadn't expected that and was left speechless. I lay back down, turned off the light, and gave him my back. I could feel his bewildered, angry stare burning into me in the dark. "Nora," he finally said through clenched teeth, "don't do anything stupid. I've had my eye on this house. My brother Ryan is getting married. He needs a place." So that was it. I closed my eyes, my nails digging into my palms. The whole family had planned this for a long time. They wanted to take from me, live in my house, and in the end, hand it to my brother-in-law. Evan started snoring. I didn't sleep a wink all night. At dawn, I got up quietly. I packed some essentials and important documents, and I left the house stealthily. The morning air was exceptionally fresh. I took a deep breath and called Maya. "Maya, I've decided. I'm taking back everything that's mine." On the other end, Maya's voice was full of determination. That's the spirit. I'll be waiting at the office. The war starts now. I hung up and hailed a cab. In the rearview mirror, I watched the house where I had lived for 3 years get smaller and smaller. This time, I wasn't going to falter. Maya's office was on the 28th floor of a glass skyscraper in downtown LA. I sat in the meeting room. Across from me, Maya had printed out all the evidence. The situation's worse than I thought, she said, adjusting her glasses. According to these bank statements, over the last 2 years, Evan has transferred a total of $330,000 to that Valerie. That's clear dissipation of marital assets. I nodded in silence. My fingers unconsciously traced those cold numbers. $330,000, the equivalent of several years of my salary, and he had given it so easily to another woman. But here's the worst part. Maya unfolded a stack of papers. I pulled Evan's credit report. 3 months ago, he took an $800,000 loan, listed as home renovation. You didn't have any big projects planned, did you? $800,000? I looked up in shock. He never told me. Of course not, Maya scoffed. 1 week after the money hit, it was wired to Valerie in 5 transfers. I think he bought her a house. My voice trembled. You really think so? Very likely, Maya nodded. But that's not the most urgent problem. Look at this. She opened a digital file. It contained a transcript of Evan's and his brother Ryan's text messages. I got this through a special channel, Maya explained. It's hard to use directly in court, but it tells us what they planned. Bro, did you tell your wife about the mortgage on the house yet? Ryan had asked. Not yet. I'll tell her after the trip. She's acting weird, might suspect Valerie. So what? We have to put a down payment on the condo my girlfriend and I found next week. Don't rush. My name's on the deed too. Even if she objects, she can't stop it. If she makes a fuss, I'll have Mom talk to her. She always listens to Mom. I stared at the screen, a rock crushing my chest. They had been planning to mortgage my house to buy my brother-in-law a condo for a long time. Legally, for a jointly owned property, sometimes one owner's consent is enough, Maya said seriously. If they move first, you'll be in a bad spot. Then what do I do? I clenched my fists. Stand by and watch? Absolutely not. A sharp light gleamed in Maya's eyes. We move first. Your parents paid the down payment and you covered most renovations. You've got receipts. We argue Evan's at fault for the marital breakdown and push for a fair redivision. I thought for a moment. Then something occurred to me. Maya, what if I prove the joint tenancy deed was forged by Evan? Maya's eyes lit up. You have proof? Not yet, but I'm sure it was tenancy in common at first. And the notary stamp and signature in the safe looked off. That could be the turning point, Maya exclaimed, tapping the table. If we prove falsification, any mortgage falls apart, and Evan could face charges. We laid out a general plan. First, I had to secretly gather more evidence. Second, we had to quickly verify the deed's authenticity. And finally, prepare the divorce petition. As I was leaving the office, Maya gave me a set of keys. It's a small apartment I own. It's empty. Stay there for now. Don't go back home. A cornered Evan could do anything. I hugged her gratefully. As I exited the building, the sunlight was dazzling. My phone rang. It was a call from Evan. I took a deep breath and answered. Nora, where are you? Evan's voice was filled with anger. Mom says you still haven't sent the gift boxes. She needs them tomorrow. I almost laughed. After everything, his first reaction was to scold me over an errand for his mother. I'm out handling a few things, I said calmly. The boxes are ordered. They'll be delivered to your mom's house this afternoon. Evan seemed bewildered. He hadn't expected me to be so matter-of-fact. Oh, okay. Hey, about last night. Last night? I asked, feigning ignorance. You were very drunk. You talked nonsense. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. Yeah, super drunk. Don't remember. Anyway, when are you coming home? I'll be late. Something urgent came up. Don't wait. I ended the call and headed straight to the county recorder's office. With a copy of the original deed and my ID, I was able to successfully view the property's historical records. Indeed, it was clearly stated there, tenancy in common. Nora Miller 70%, Evan Black 30%. However, the current deed indicated a 50-50 joint tenancy. That meant Evan had falsified the document somehow. I held back my euphoria, immediately took a picture and sent it to Maya. Bingo! He falsified the type of ownership. This time he's done for. Great, Maya replied instantly. Now you need to get the original of that falsified deed. It wouldn't be easy. Evan will surely hide it carefully. I decided to take a risk and go back to the house one more time. At 4:00 p.m., I took advantage of Evan being in a meeting at the office to go back. As soon as I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. The living room was in disarray, and the drawers of my vanity were wide open. Someone had been looking for something. I went upstairs quietly. I heard a noise in the office. Through the crack in the door, I saw Evan, sweating profusely, rummaging through papers. He kept cursing under his breath. He had come home earlier than expected to look for the deed. I went back downstairs stealthily and closed the front door with a deliberate slam. "Honey, I'm home." From upstairs, there was a sound of surprise, followed by Evan's voice trying to sound calm. "Oh, hey, I was in the office looking for some papers." I went up and opened the office door. Evan was standing by the desk, forcing a smile, but the beads of sweat on his forehead and his disheveled hair gave away his nervousness. "Why are you back so early?" I asked, feigning concern. There wasn't much to do at the office. Hey, have you seen the house deed? I need some documents to apply for a loan at work." Just as I expected. Inside, I smiled coldly, but on the outside, I put on a bewildered expression. "It's not in the safe." "I looked and it's not there," Evan said nervously. "Did you put it somewhere else? Think carefully." I pretended to think, and then said, "You know, last month the Homeowners Association asked us to update the owner information. I took it to make a copy and my mom has it. She said she wanted to see it and I left it with her." Evan's face went white as paper. "What? How could you give something so important to someone else?" "My mother is not someone else," I shot back. "Besides, my name is on the deed too. What's the problem with my own family having it?" Evan was speechless. A vein throbbed on his forehead. "Go get it right now. I need it urgently for work. My mom left on a trip." "She won't be back until next month," I said, blinking innocently. "Are you in such a hurry? Then get the loan with the condo you have in your name." Evan had a small condo in his name as a separate asset that he rented out. Of course, he didn't want to touch his own property. "Forget it. I'll find another way," he snapped irritably. Suddenly, he remembered something. "Hey, do you really not remember anything I said last night? You said a lot of things. You talked about Valerie, about Palm Springs, about a necklace." I watched as his face hardened and then I laughed. "Kidding. You didn't say anything. You slept like a log." Evan's face, a picture of relief, was priceless. He came closer to hug me. "Honey, I've been so busy lately and I've neglected you. When I get back from the trip, we'll spend some time together, just the two of us." I skillfully evaded his arms. "Hurry up and pack. You have an early flight tomorrow." Evan awkwardly withdrew his arms and went upstairs. Watching his back, I knew I had to keep up the charade. The most important thing now was to calm him down and buy myself some time. After dinner, Evan got a call and rushed out, probably to meet Valerie and plan their strategy. I immediately searched the office thoroughly. Finally, on the highest shelf, inside a thick criminal law manual, I found the forged deed. I quickly photographed it as evidence and put it back in its place. As I was about to leave, an envelope in the desk drawer caught my attention. When I opened it, to my surprise, I found a drafted mortgage loan agreement. The appraisal of the house was $200,000, the loan amount $800,000, and the purpose joint family investment. The most terrifying thing was that in the space for the borrower's signature, my signature had been forged convincingly. It wasn't mine. Evan had forged my signature. With trembling hands, I photographed all the evidence and carefully put it back where it belonged. Just as I was about to leave the office, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. "Nora," her voice was still arrogant. "The gift boxes are arriving tomorrow, right? They have to be the good ones with gold details. Don't mess it up." "Yes, Mom, don't worry. Everything is ready." I replied, repressing my nausea. She continued with her orders. While we're on vacation, don't forget to water the plants at home once a week. Evan's succulents are very expensive. Oh, and I have some pickles in the fridge that I made. They'll be ready next week, so take them out and put them in the sun to dry. I responded with monosyllabic replies while looking at the clock. It was already 10 p.m. Evan still hadn't returned. I decided not to wait any longer. I packed some clothes and important documents and left the house for Maya's apartment. On the way, I called my parents and explained the situation in broad strokes. Contrary to what I expected, my dad didn't scold me for not listening to him. On the contrary, he said firmly, "Honey, whatever decision you make, your family will always be on your side. We gave you that house. Don't let that man's family take it from you." On the other end of the line, I heard my mom crying. My poor girl. How could you go through all this without telling us? After I hung up, I finally broke down. I cried uncontrollably in the backseat of the taxi. I wasn't fighting alone. My pride had just prevented me from showing my vulnerability to my family. Maya's apartment was small but cozy. I took a hot shower and, lying in bed, reviewed my findings. Evan's offenses were becoming more and more evident. Infidelity, concealment of assets, and falsification of documents, plus a forged signature on a contract. Any of them was enough for him to pay a high price in court. My phone lit up. A text message from Evan. Unexpected business trip came up. I'll be gone for a few days. I'll meet the family directly in Palm Springs. We'll talk about the house when I get back. I smiled disdainfully and didn't reply. I went on Facebook and saw that Valerie had posted something new. Thanks for coming. Best gift ever? The attached photo showed a Tiffany's bracelet and a man's hand. The watch on that man's wrist was the one I had given Evan for his birthday last year. Calmly, I took a screenshot, saved it, and turned off my phone. Tomorrow, the war would enter a new phase, and this time there would be no mercy. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains. When I opened my eyes, it took me a few seconds to realize where I was. Maya's apartment was small, but I had slept better than I had in the last 3 years. I had 3 missed calls on my phone, all from Evan, and a text message. Why aren't you answering? I'm getting on the plane. Lock the front door. I smiled coldly and blocked his number and all his profiles. I got up and opened the fridge. A workaholic, Maya's fridge was empty except for some water bottles and an expired yogurt. After showering, I made myself a coffee, turned on my laptop, and started planning. Last night, Maya had sent me a detailed list of actions. The first was to secure my personal assets. I logged into my online banking and checked all my accounts. Luckily, my salary was deposited into an account Evan didn't know about. In the last 3 years, I had managed to save nearly $60,000. In our joint account, there were $35,000 in savings. In theory, we were each entitled to half. I smiled bitterly. Evan had already sent his mistress more than $300,000. I called the bank and, citing possible suspicious activity, temporarily froze the joint account. This way, Evan couldn't take out any money during his trip. The next thing was the most important: the house. Following Maya's advice, I had to report the deed as lost and quickly request a duplicate. But first, I had to make sure Evan couldn't interfere. My phone rang. It was my dad. Honey, I talked to my old friend, the lawyer, Mr. Jameson. He has a lot of experience in real estate litigation. He says we have to sue Evan for falsification of documents as soon as possible and at the same time request an urgent restraining order. Dad. A lump formed in my throat. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. Nonsense. My dad's voice was firm. The important thing now is that you get back what's yours. Your mom and I are coming to LA this afternoon. We'll stay at a hotel. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. When I hung up, my eyes felt moist. My parents would always be my refuge. And for an insignificant man, I had distanced myself from them for 3 years. After getting ready, I went directly to the county recorder's office. With a copy of the original deed and my ID, I successfully completed the lost deed report. The clerk informed me that the new deed would take about 7 business days to be issued. If someone tries to mortgage the property with the reported deed, would it be valid? I asked cautiously. The clerk shook his head. Once the loss announcement is published, the previous deed loses its validity immediately. But if you're concerned about the security of your home, you can request a temporary prohibition on disposition annotation. This way, no one will be able to make any transactions with that property for a while. That was exactly what I needed. I filled out the application immediately. In the reasons section, I clearly wrote alleged falsification of documents by the co-owner. As I left the office, I sighed in relief. The house was safe for now. No matter how many banks Evan went to with that falsified deed, he wouldn't get a single dollar. My phone rang, an unknown number. When I answered, a voice introduced herself as the real estate agent from Sun Realty. "Is this Ms. Nora Miller? I'm calling about the listing for your house. We have a buyer willing to pay $150,000. When can we meet to negotiate?" I was stunned. "Excuse me, I haven't put my house up for sale." On the other end of the line, the agent also seemed bewildered. "But a Mr. Evan Black came in yesterday with the deed and a photocopy of your ID, saying you both decided to list the house." I felt my blood boil. Evan, that scumbag, had gotten ahead of me. "Listen carefully," I said, holding back my rage. "That listing is fraudulent. The deed has been reported lost and a new one is in process. If your agency proceeds without proper legal checks, expect a lawsuit from my attorneys." I hung up and immediately called Maya. When she heard about it, she was furious. "Evan is a complete jerk. Nora, we have to move faster." "What now?" I asked. "He may have contacted other agencies. First, we'll notify major brokers and banks that the house is in litigation. Second, we file immediately for falsification of a public document and a forged signature. And finally," Maya paused, "what if you sell the house?" "Sell it?" The idea surprised me. I had put so much effort into that house, from the blueprints to choosing the materials. Every corner had my touch. But thinking about it, what was the point of living there, facing unpleasant memories every day? "I'll sell it," I said firmly, "but only after I regain full ownership." "Good call," Maya nodded. "Hey, your parents just arrived. Mr. Jameson wants to meet this afternoon." At 3:00, I met with my parents and Mr. Jameson in a hotel meeting room. When my mom saw me, she hugged me tightly, her eyes teary. "You're so thin." Mr. Jameson was an intelligent-looking, middle-aged man. He meticulously reviewed all the evidence I had collected, nodding constantly. "This is very strong. Mr. Black's behavior clearly constitutes falsification of a private document and fraud. He could face up to 3 years in prison." "Prison?" I shook my head. "I just want a quick divorce and my assets back. I don't want to take this to criminal court, despite everything." "It's been 3 years," Mr. Jameson understood and nodded. "Then we focus on civil. Under the code, cohabiting with another person like a spouse and gifting large sums during marriage is a serious cause for divorce. In division, he could receive less, or nothing. We agreed on the legal strategy. First, we would request a restraining order to freeze Evan's assets. Then, we would file the divorce petition requesting redistribution of the house's ownership and compensation for the marital assets Evan had dissipated. "There's one more problem," Mr. Jameson said, adjusting his glasses. "Do you know where Mr. Black is currently? The court needs to notify him." I opened my phone and went into the family group chat. Although I had notifications silenced, I could see the photos they were uploading. The most recent was a family photo on a beach in Palm Springs. Evan was hugging Valerie by the waist, smiling radiantly. The caption read, "Family photo, only missing the daughter-in-law." My hands were trembling so much I could barely hold the phone. So that was it. Evan's family trip was planned from the beginning to take Valerie, and I, his legal wife, had been completely excluded. "They're at the Oasis Club in Palm Springs," I said calmly, handing my phone to Mr. Jameson. The photo showed the time and location. Mr. Jameson photographed the evidence and asked me, "Miss Miller, when do you plan to retrieve your things from the house?" "Today," I said with determination. If Evan dared to take his mistress on a trip, passing her off as family, I no longer had to keep up appearances for him. When I returned to the house, I started systematically packing my belongings. The books from my college years in the office, The clothes and shoes from the walk-in closet, the dishes I had so carefully chosen in the kitchen. 3 years of marriage had accumulated a lot of things. As I was packing, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw an unknown woman with a folder in her hand. "Is this the residence of Mr. Evan Black?" she asked politely. "I'm an account manager from ABC Bank. Mr. Black asked me to pick up some documents." An employee from the bank. Evan's reaction had been faster than I thought. I opened the door but didn't let her in. "Which documents?" "Mr. Black said you were aware, the property deed and your original ID." Her gaze flicked over my shoulder, scanning the house. I almost laughed out of anger. Evan, from a distance, was sending a bank employee to try and take the documents. "I'm sorry, but I don't know anything about that," I said coldly. "And the deed isn't here." The woman looked bewildered. "But Mr. Black, whatever he told you," I interrupted. "Check the most recent public notices from the county recorder. This property is in active litigation, and any bank that issues a mortgage on it will face legal consequences." Her expression shifted, and she hurried off. I closed the door and immediately emailed the credit departments at major banks, formally notifying them that the house was in litigation and that any loan application tied to it would be voided. At dusk, I finished packing my things. A moving truck parked out front, and the movers began loading boxes. I took one last look at the place I once called home. Not an ounce of nostalgia. Wait, something occurred to me. I went back to the bedroom and took a small box from the nightstand. Inside was a pair of pearl earrings, my only keepsake from my maternal grandmother. For 3 years I hadn't worn them for fear of losing them. Now they were finally back with their rightful owner. I locked the front door and handed the key to the community doorman, informing him of my move. I asked that any house-related matters be handled through my lawyer. The doorman had known me since the day I moved in. "Ms. Miller, has something happened?" he asked hesitantly. "From now on, call me Nora," I corrected him with a smile. "Thank you for everything." I drove to the hotel where my parents were staying, feeling lighter than I had in years. On the way, a text from Maya arrived. "Restraining order granted. All accounts in Evan's name are frozen. Lost deed notice is live, legally effective now." I thanked her and called my parents. Then another call flashed in. My old college roommate from London, now a senior executive at a multinational. "Nora, it's been a while." Emma's voice rang with energy. "Is that Singapore role still open?" I looked at the road ahead and said firmly, "I think I need a new beginning." A week later, I sat in Mr. Jameson's office reviewing the newly drafted divorce petition. The document detailed serious grounds attributable to Evan, cohabiting with another woman, falsifying documents, and dissipating marital assets, each backed by solid evidence. The court accepted the petition. "We'll rush service to the Palm Springs Hotel where Mr. Black is staying," Mr. Jameson said, handing me another stack. "This is the restraining order. All bank accounts, stocks, and real estate in Mr. Black's name are seized." I nodded and turned to the last page. Evan's reaction was more violent than I imagined. The same day he was served, he tried to fly back from Palm Springs, but with his cards frozen, he couldn't even buy a ticket. In the end, he had to ask his brother Ryan for money. "He should be back in LA now," Mr. Jameson warned. "Do you need to lay low?" "No," I said, shaking my head. "It's time to face him." As if on cue, my phone blared. Evan's name flashed. It was the 10th number he'd used since I blocked him. I answered on speaker. "Nora, have you lost your mind?" he shouted. "How dare you sue me and freeze my accounts?" "Mr. Black," I said calmly, "watch your language. My lawyer is recording this." The line went quiet. Then his tone softened. "Nora, honey, do we really have to do this? Let's sit down and talk." I smiled, ice cold. "When you forged the deed in my signature, did you think to talk? When you took your mistress on a family trip, did you think to talk?" "It's all a misunderstanding," Evan rushed out. "Valerie is a distant cousin. That photo was a joke, and the deed was probably a county clerk's mistake. We can fix it, Mr. Black." I cut off his clumsy lies. "I'll see you in court." I hung up. "Well handled," Mr. Jameson nodded. "He'll go all in now. We prepare." Sure enough, less than 30 minutes later, Maya texted urgently. Evan's at the building with his parents, screaming at the doorman to change the locks. Mr. Jameson and I headed over immediately. From a distance, we heard my mother-in-law's shrill voice. My son owns this house. Why won't you let him in? Did that woman bribe you, doorman? The doorman looked shaken. Ma'am, Ms. Miller filed a lost deed report. A new deed is being issued. Legally, at this moment, she's the only one with rights to the house. Ridiculous. My father-in-law shouted, slamming the counter. Half that house is my son's. Who does Nora think she is, keeping him out of his own home? I took a breath, opened the door, and walked in. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, long time. How was Palm Springs? That family photo looked beautiful. They spun around in unison, faces priceless. Evan's face was plum purple. My mother-in-law looked ready to tear me apart. Nora! She lunged, trying to grab my neck. How dare you treat my son this way? Mr. Jameson stepped between us. Ma'am, control yourself. Assault is a crime. We're recording. Her hand froze midair. Color drained from her face. So now you bring lawyers against your in-laws, Evan sneered, shoving his mother aside. What do you want? Simple, I said, meeting his eyes. A divorce, and every asset that's mine. Don't even dream it. Evan yelled. My name's on the deed. You're not keeping it all? Oh, really? I pulled a folder from my bag. This is the original registration. Tenancy in common. 70% mine, 30% yours. Your joint tenancy is a crime. Evan went white. That's a lie. And there's more. I pressed on. You forged my signature on a mortgage and transferred $330,000 to your mistress. Those are serious grounds for divorce. Under the law, you could get nothing and still owe compensation. My mother-in-law exploded. Impossible. My son has supported you for years. This is how you repay him? Biting the hand that feeds you? Supported me? I almost laughed. For 3 years, we kept separate accounts. The mortgage, utilities, HOA, I paid them. Your son gave me $100 a month, not even covering his own meals. My mother-in-law fell silent. My father-in-law narrowed his eyes. Nora, we're family. No need to go this far. Men make small mistakes. Small mistakes? I cut in. Falsifying documents? Draining assets? Taking a mistress on a family trip? Evan suddenly lunged, trying to snatch the folder, but Mr. Jameson blocked him. He looked like a cornered animal. Nora, don't push me. I know people. I can make sure you never work in LA again. Threatening the opposing party, Mr. Jameson said evenly, pressing record. Mr. Black, this will be devastating in court. Realizing the gravity, Evan's posture collapsed. Nora, I'm sorry, please. I'll leave Valerie. I'll do whatever you want. One more chance. Once, that helpless look would have melted me. Not anymore. Too late, Evan, I said quietly. I gave you too many chances. I just want this over. In your dreams, he snapped. I'll drag this for years. That isn't your call, Mr. Jameson replied, handing him another folder. This is evidence of your cohabitation with Ms. Valerie. Bank transfers, intimate photos, messages. Once filed, the court will accelerate, and you may owe damages for emotional distress. Even his parents went silent. Evan slumped into a chair, deflated. 3 days, I said, standing. Agree to a mutual divorce. The house is mine. Everything else by law. Refuse and we'll meet in court. Be ready for consequences. As I left the booth, I exhaled. The sun warmed my face. My phone pinged. Emma's email. The attachment, a formal offer for marketing director, Singapore office. Triple my current salary. Have you decided? Mr. Jameson asked. I nodded. Once I settle things here, I'm moving to Singapore. Smart, he smiled. But Evan won't quit. Expect dirtier tactics next. I'll be ready, I said, staring at the house that had turned cold. I wasn't backing down. 3 days later, Evan refused to sign. Instead, he launched a smear campaign. First, his relatives called one after another to guilt me into staying. Then he posted a tearful Facebook message, hinting I'd left him for a wealthier man. Finally, he showed up at my company and filed an HR complaint accusing me of immoral conduct. Fortunately, I was ready. When HR called, I presented my resignation and Emma's job offer from Singapore. At the same time, Maya helped publish a statement on several news sites, laying out the facts with select evidence of Evan's infidelity and document fraud. Public opinion flipped instantly. Evan's pages flooded with outrage. Someone even doxed Valerie's workplace. They were the talk of the town. Most shocking of all, one zealous user uncovered that Valerie was dating 3 men at once. Evan became a national punchline. "He's really finished now," Maya said, satisfied. But we underestimated him. One rainy night, Evan broke into the house where I was finishing packing, dragging Ryan along. "Drop the lawsuit or I'll ruin you," Evan snarled, reeking of alcohol, eyes bloodshot. Ryan raised his phone, recording. "Sister-in-law better cooperate, or this reconciliation video goes viral tomorrow." I understood instantly. They planned to fake a forced reunion, maybe worse. My heart pounded, but my face stayed calm. "Evan, this is a crime." "A crime?" He scoffed. "Between husband and wife? After tonight, you're done, lawsuit or not." As he lunged, I pressed the panic fob in my pocket. A piercing alarm shrieked, and 2 former co-workers, waiting next door as planned, burst in and pinned the Black brothers to the floor. "Police are on their way," I said coldly. "Trespassing and attempted assault. Jail will be a long stay." Evan went ashen. Ryan started sobbing. "It was his idea, please." Sirens grew louder. I knew the farce was finally over. Evan's last desperate gamble had handed me the clean break I needed. As officers cuffed him, he looked up. "Nora, did you ever love me?" I paused, then answered honestly. "Once, now only contempt." The squad car pulled away. The rain stopped. I stood in the doorway, staring at a place crammed with memories, and felt unexpected peace. Tomorrow, I would officially list the house. Next week, the first divorce hearing. In a month, I'd be in Singapore, starting over. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Honey, I made your favorite stew. Come eat." I smiled and replied, "Of course, Mom, I'm on my way." A star winked in the night sky, my marker forward. The day before the first hearing, the police called. During his Palm Springs trip, Evan had used the fake deed to secure a $120,000 loan from a small finance company. They'd discovered the forgery and reported him. "Ms. Miller, you're a victim in this case. We need your cooperation," the officer said. Serious, respectful. I hung up and phoned Mr. Jameson. He couldn't help but laugh. He dug his own grave. With a falsified public document at that amount, he's looking at least 3 years. "Prison?" I asked. "Very likely," he said. "And it helps us immensely. The judge will see his serious fault. The asset division should tilt in your favor." I should have been thrilled, but a strange mix of feelings surfaced. 3 years of marriage ending like this, bitterly ironic. On the day of the hearing, the courthouse teemed with reporters. Since my story had gone viral, it became a media spectacle. Someone even launched the hashtag #ThawInterstandStrongNora. Evan arrived late with his parents and lawyer. In just 2 weeks, he looked 10 years older. His eyes were sunken and his face was ashen. When he saw me, a flash of resentment crossed his gaze, but it was quickly replaced by fear. He knew he was facing not only divorce, but also criminal charges. The email included a clipping from the crime section of a national newspaper with the headline, "Wife splits divorce after husband's deed forgery scam." In the photo, Evan was surrounded by journalists looking pathetic. I calmly closed the email. I felt nothing. On the weekend, I attended a yacht party in Marina Bay organized by the company. The night view of Singapore was a spectacle of lights. My coworkers toasted cheerfully. Jackson, the senior marketing director, approached with a glass of champagne. "Nora, I heard you left an important post in Spain to come to Singapore." "That's brave." I smiled without saying anything. He didn't know I hadn't come for my career, but to escape a past I refused to revisit. 3 months passed, and I fully adapted to Singapore's pace. Work went smoothly, and I made new friends. Sometimes I posted photos of food and cityscapes on Instagram. Maya was always first to like and comment, "I'm so jealous." One Tuesday morning, while preparing the quarterly report, my phone rang. An unknown LA number. Hello? I hesitated, then answered. Is this Nora Miller? A weak female voice said. My phone almost slipped from my hand. It was my ex-mother-in-law. How had she gotten my new number? I'm Evan's mother. What do you want? I asked coldly. Nora? Her voice cracked. I was wrong. It was my fault. Please forgive my Evan. He's already gotten sick twice in jail. The doctor says if he keeps going like this... Ma'am, I interrupted. First, you are not my mother. Second, if Evan is in jail, he put himself there. Finally, don't contact me again. How can you be so cruel? She shrieked. You were husband and wife. How can you do nothing while he's dying in prison? If he's ill, prisons have medical care, I said calmly. My lawyer will also send a formal notice for harassment. I hung up and immediately called Mr. Jameson. He was surprised she had my number and promised to investigate and take legal action. The incident was like a small stone tossed into a calm lake. Ripples, then stillness. 2 weeks later, I received a LinkedIn message from an unknown contact. Dear Nora Miller, I'm Iris Jones, head of HR for the XG Group. I've heard of your success in Singapore. We're seeking a marketing director with international experience. Would you consider returning to the US? XG Group was a giant in the industry. The role had always been my goal. But going back, I wasn't ready to face a place packed with painful memories. I replied politely, I'm satisfied with my current role and not looking to move soon. Iris responded quickly, I understand, but it's a unique opportunity. $250,000 annually, stock options, and reporting directly to the CEO. If you change your mind, please reach out. $250,000, double my current pay. I stared at the message for a long time. In the end, I didn't delete it. Time flew, and I had been in Singapore for 6 months. In that time, my team closed 2 major contracts. The CEO publicly congratulated me at the annual meeting. Emma, saying I was the fastest adapting foreign employee, even encouraged me to apply for residency. But the offer to return kept tugging at me. It wasn't about the position. I realized I was running, from where Evan was, from old pain, from the weak version of me. One weekend I went to Sentosa Island alone. Sitting on white sand, staring at the blue ocean, I understood. True detachment isn't fleeing. It's being able to face it, and still choose not to look back. That night I wrote to Iris expressing interest. I also asked Mr. Jameson whether, if I returned, Evan or his family could harass me. Mr. Black is still serving his sentence, at least 2 years left, he replied. After our warning, his parents won't dare, and your U.S. reputation is strong. Many women see you as an example of resisting domestic abuse. An example? I smiled bitterly. I was just a normal woman who fought back when cornered. The interviews with XG Group went very well. After a video call, they even arranged an in-person meeting in Singapore. The Asia-Pacific president had dinner with me and detailed their expansion plans. Ms. Miller were deeply impressed, he said sincerely. Not just with your ability, but with the strength and courage you've shown, core to our culture. So after 8 months in Singapore, I decided to return. Emma, though sad, understood. Follow your heart. Singapore will always be here for you. The resignation process was quick. The CEO tried to keep me with a 30% raise, but I refused. It wasn't about the money. I needed a personal ritual of redemption. To return to the place that hurt me, head high, and start anew. A week before my flight, Maya sent a juicy update. Valerie cheated on your ex. She hooked up with another inmate's family member at a halfway house. They teamed up, cleaned him out of what little he had left, and then disappeared. I should have felt satisfied, but a strange heaviness crept in. Evan, who had calculated every move, ended up betrayed by everyone. Karma, maybe. The plane landed at LAX. It was mid-October, peak fall. Through the window, I saw blue sky and gold leaves. Stunning. While waiting for my luggage, my phone buzzed. A welcome message from Iris. At the end, she added, "Oh, there's a welcome party at the company tomorrow night. The CEO wants to introduce you to the team. Can you make it?" I replied yes and took a deep breath. I pushed my cart and walked out of Arrivals. The sun filtering through the glass dome warmed my face. Nora, welcome home, I told myself. The XG Group welcome party was at a restaurant on the 80th floor of a downtown LA skyscraper. I chose a deep red pantsuit, professional, with a celebratory edge. Director Miller, I've heard so much about you. The CEO, Mr. Johnson, a kind man in his 50s, shook my hand with just the right amount of firmness. Your case was a case study in my MBA class. I smiled and thanked him, quietly stunned. My divorce, a business school case study. As the party began, I understood why. Mr. Johnson's wife, Eleanor Thompson, an elegant UCLA law professor, approached me. Nora, I'm Eleanor Thompson. I also direct the Center for Women's Rights Studies. Your story shows how an educated woman can use the law to protect herself. I'm flattered, but you're giving me too much credit, I said, a little overwhelmed. I reacted on instinct when I was cornered. Exactly. That instinct deserves study, the professor said, eyes bright. Too many women endure. You proved the law is an effective shield. Midway through, a middle-aged man in a suit introduced himself. Director Miller, I'm the group's legal advisor. Heard great things. As we spoke, a young woman edged closer. Excuse me, are you Director Nora Miller? She was an intern from marketing. My story, she said, gave her the courage to leave a toxic relationship. Seeing you now makes me believe I can start over too. Tears filled her eyes. In that moment, I felt my story meant something beyond me. A mirror for countless women in unhappy marriages. At the end, Mr. Johnson arranged a car to my hotel. In the car, he handed me a folder. Director, this is the invitation for the Forward to Europe Business Forum next month. The group wants you to represent us and give the opening speech. I opened it. The industry's marquee forum, usually VP level and above. I'm not sure I've got the experience, I said. Don't be modest, Mr. Johnson laughed. Your results in Singapore speak for themselves. And, he added wryly, your story fits the theme, the reinvention of leadership in times of change. Back at the hotel, I couldn't sleep. The LA night glittered, a different glow than Singapore's. In a year, everything had flipped. From disrespected wife to senior exec. From hushed victim to someone other women's sight. My phone buzzed. A message from Maya. How's it going? First day back and already thriving? Let's catch up tomorrow, I sent a smiley. Absolutely. 1,000 updates. The next day I met Maya for lunch at a quiet cafe. She hugged me hard. Wow, Director. That presence carries from 100 feet, she teased. I laughed, tapping her shoulder. Enough. Tell me about your partner track. Don't start, Maya waved it off. Old-timers say I'm too young. But, she lowered her voice conspiratorially, I just landed a big case. Evan's mother is suing Valerie to claw back assets. What? I nearly spit my coffee. What soap opera is this? Turns out my ex-mother-in-law claimed Valerie scammed Evan and demanded $500,000 in donations back. Valerie argued it was compensation for lost youth. They put on a courtroom circus, the mother-in-law calling Valerie names. Valerie snapping back about parenting. The judge was stunned, Maya said, amused. I shook my head. I wanted no part of the farce. Evan and his wreckage had nothing to do with me. Oh, Maya added, serious now. He might get out 6 months early for good behavior. Could be next month. She watched me closely. Does that change your plans here? I thought, then shook my head. No, LA is huge. We won't cross paths. Besides, the Nora now is not the one people walked over. That's the Nora I know, Maya said, raising her glass. To your new life. The following days flew. I officially took the reins of marketing and began building my team. I revised my Forward to Europe keynote until it sang. On forum day, I wore a royal blue tailored suit, sharp yet feminine. In the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Confident, commanding, steadfast. On Reinventing Leadership in Times of Crisis, please welcome XG Group's marketing director, Nora Miller. Amid applause, I walked to the podium. Under the lights, faces blurred. It calmed me. A year ago, I began, I hit the worst crisis of my life. My marriage collapsed. My trust shattered. My value felt erased. I shared how, in the wreckage, I rebuilt, turning pain into fuel. I closed. True leadership isn't about controlling others. It's about owning our lives. When we face our deepest fears, we discover our greatest strength. Thank you. The room stood and clapped. Industry heavyweights lined up with cards. From across the hall, Mr. Johnson flashed a thumbs up, grinning like he'd found a gem. On the ride back, my phone pinged from an unknown number. Nora, I'm out. Heard you're doing great. Congratulations. Can we meet once? I have so much to say. It was Evan. My fingers hovered. Then I deleted the message and blocked the number. No rewinds. The video of my keynote went viral, bringing surprises. Interview requests from business magazines, a TV commentator invite, then a publisher asking me to write a book on female leadership. Director, you're our star, my young assistant smiled. Reception says admirers keep sending flowers. I shook my head and asked her to have reception decline gifts from unknown senders. Fame cuts both ways. I knew that. One Friday, while I reviewed the quarterly report, Iris knocked. Director, next month is International Women's Day. The Federation of Women in Business invited you to keynote a high-level forum. The CEO already approved. Here's the invite. Thick, gold-edged cardstock read, Growth and Empowerment of Women in the New Era. The speaker list included celebrated executives, scholars, and artists. My name was there. Isn't this a bit much for me? I asked. Don't underplay it, Iris said, patting my shoulder. Do you know what they call you online? The comeback queen, modern Joan of Arc. You've inspired thousands. That night, I video called my parents with the news. Mom cried. Dad boasted he'd tell the whole family to watch the live stream. Nora, Mom said softly, that Evan showed up at the house a few days ago. My smile froze. What did he want? He said he came to apologize, Dad answered. He looked thin and unusually polite. Said he knew he was wrong, didn't expect forgiveness, but hoped to make amends. You didn't give him my number, right? Of course not, Mom said quickly. Your dad nearly chased him off with a broom. I exhaled and asked them not to receive him again. I stood by the window, staring at LA's lights. Evan's appearance was a pebble in a calm pond. Ripples, then stillness. The Women's Day Forum filled the LA Convention Center. My speech. The path of personal reinvention, from home to the professional world. I shared leaving a toxic marriage and reclaiming worth. When we let others define us, we surrender our most precious freedom. Empowerment begins when we take it back. My voice carried, divorce isn't terrible. Lacking the ability to divorce is. Being single isn't terrible. Lacking the ability to live alone is. Thunderous applause. I saw many women crying, including Mom. She and Dad had flown in. Afterward, a white-haired business icon approached with her aide. Nora, what a speech, she said, squeezing my hand. Honest stories have the greatest power. Keep speaking up for women. I could only nod, throat tight. Flashbulbs popped, freezing the moment. That night, the photo was front page in business papers. At the reception, I collected a mountain of cards and proposals. I was flagging when a familiar figure appeared at the door. Evan. In a poorly fitting suit, clutching a cheap bouquet, he tried to slip in. Security stopped him. Voices rose. I hesitated, then walked over. Nora? His eyes lit up. I just wanted to congratulate you. You look incredible. He'd lost weight. Deep circles pooled under his eyes. The bouquet looked sad. Evan, I said evenly. Please leave. I know I have no right. His voice cracked. I was wrong. Valerie ran with my money. Mom had a heart attack and is hospitalized. I lost my job. It's my karma. The tears moved nothing in me. The wound had scarred over. There was no hate left, just distance. Let's leave the past where it belongs, I said. I wish you well, but don't come find me again. He suddenly dropped to his knees. One more chance. Security, I said, turning. Please escort this gentleman out. They lifted him by the arms. He struggled, yelling, Nora, you're ruthless after all we've been through. Heads turned. Whispers swelled. I centered myself, lifted my chin, and returned to the room. Mom's worried eyes met mine. I hugged her. I'm okay. After that night, Evan never reappeared. Some said he went south for construction work. Others that he returned home to care for his mother. Either way, not my concern. The forum's momentum lasted. My LinkedIn followers spiked. Messages and proposals poured in daily. The company named me director of a new center for women's leadership development and granted extra stock options. When spring arrived, I bought an LA apartment. At closing, I made sure the deed was solely in my name. Standing in the empty space, I video cheered with Maya. "Wow, director, you're officially a winner," she said, chomping an apple. "But love, any updates?" "Work is my love," I joked, deflecting. "What about your partnership?" "Thanks to you, nailed it," Maya grinned, lifting her glass. "Now the old guard actually calls me counselor, with respect." We toasted on screen, celebrating wins. I stepped onto the balcony. April air smelled of lilacs. In the distance, downtown shimmered, lights like a galaxy. A year ago, I was still Nora trapped in a bad marriage. Today, I'd emerged, living a life I once didn't dare imagine. My phone chimed, an email from my publisher. The revised manuscript had arrived. My memoir, Rebirth, would be out by year's end. The editor suggested a new chapter on building healthy relationships. Readers will ask if, after all this, you still believe in love. I sat at the desk, opened my laptop, and on a blank page typed, "I believe in love. But I believe more in myself. Real safety doesn't come from someone's promise. It comes from self-trust." Outside, a crescent moon climbed the sky, washing the city in soft silver.